Welcome back to the Cauldron of Curiosities. Today I'm actually having a look at one of the oldest gathering of stories, and some people believe, especially the King James Version, that there was a lot of editing happening within the script to suit the king, not necessarily whether it is true or not. But that's a little bit of a rabbit hole. What I'm going to talk to you about today is a question that has been making me curious, especially after my recording of the Daventry Mop Fair. And there was a peasants' revolt. And at this stage of the peasants' revolt, there was a clergy who was meant to be, he was considered to be a rogue, because he wanted to know why we had gentry. Why were there a ruling class when we all came from Adam and Eve? And if we have a single origin, why has our history been so marked by inequality, conflict, and division? This idea of a common ancestor, a single pair from whom all humanity sprang, is a cornerstone of many religions, including Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. This shared lineage, often rooted in the story of Adam and Eve, provides a powerful theological basis for the inherent equality of all people. I'll say that again. Equality of all people. If we are all brothers and sisters under the skin, it logically follows that we are all equally valuable, doesn't it? This concept isn't just a religious one, it's a moral and ethical bedrock. In the Hebrew Bible, for instance, the creation story in Genesis sets the stage for a universal human family. The Quran similarly emphasizes this unity with a verse from Surah al-Hujurat stating, "O mankind, indeed we have created you from male and female, and made you peoples and tribes that you may know one another. Indeed, the most noble of you in the sight of Allah is the most righteous of you," suggesting that worth isn't determined by lineage or race, but by character. Now, I would like to know, if there is this foundational belief in equality, and it's so widespread, where did it all go wrong? There are some key historical moments in history which might indicate that humanity, despite its shared origins, chose division over unity. I suspect they chose greed over unity too. But let's have a look. The ancient civilizations, 3000 BCE to 500 CE, the rise of complex societies bringing social hierarchies. We have the caste system in ancient India, where they rigidly divided people into groups based on birth, with different rights and different duties. And there is a colour piece to it, so depending on your shade of brown, that seemed to have some impact too. The Roman Empire, built on an institution of slavery. Was that because they were lazy? Why did they do that? I haven't actually been able to find that. Where vast populations were treated as property. Then there is the Code of Hammurabi, and this is 1754 BCE, and it's one of the earliest written legal codes, and it codified these inequalities, prescribing different punishments for the same crime based on the social status of the victim and perpetrator. Then we hop forward to the transatlantic slave trade, 1500s to 1800s. There's some relatives in my husband's family where he was a privateer. He also moved a lot of people from Africa. I think that might be called the slave trade. This period represents a catastrophic deviation from the principle of human unity. It suggests European powers being driven by greed. It's all about the money. They forcibly transported millions of Africans across the ocean. To justify this horrible act, a pseudo-scientific framework of racial hierarchy was developed, labelling certain groups as being inferior. This was in direct contradiction to the idea of a single human family. And many of these men who were slave traders were Bible bashers too. As historian Eric Williams noted in his book, Capitalism and Slavery, slavery was not born of racism, rather racism was the justification for slavery. The period of Enlightenment, 17th to 18th century, overlapping the period of racism and slavery, while this era championed reasoned and individual rights, we know from some earlier podcasts that it was far from perfect. Many of these enlightened thinkers, despite advocating for universal liberty, often held racist views too. They excluded people of colour from their definition of humanity, and they weren't exactly equal towards women. One example was Thomas Jefferson, the primary author of the US Declaration of Independence, which famously states all men are created equal, was a lifelong slave owner. Moving on to the next horrific activity that human beings have undertaken was the Holocaust. This is one of the darkest chapters in human history, where the Nazi regime, fueled by a twisted ideology of racial purity, attempted to exterminate the Jewish people. It's a very nutshell moment, but it demonstrates the horrifying sequences of abandoning the idea of shared humanity and instead embracing racial superiority. The Nuremberg trials that followed were a landmark moment as they established the concept of crimes against humanity, a legal recognition that certain acts violate the fundamental principles of human decencies, regardless of national law. Historical records show that inequality isn't a preordained destiny. It's a choice, a series of choices made by individuals and societies to prioritise power, wealth and tribalism over empathy and a shared heritage. While the theological concept of Adam and Eve provides a beautiful framework for equality, human history is a testament to our repeated failure to live up to it. The challenge for all of us today is to learn from these past mistakes. It means actively dismantling the systems of prejudice and discrimination that still exist. It means recognising that our shared humanity is far more significant than any of our differences. The story of Adam and Eve isn't just about the past. It's a call to action for the future. It reminds us, all of us, that in the end, we are just one family. Thank you for joining me on the podcast, exploring a little bit, a short vignette about inequality. And I will be back next Thursday with another episode. If you have any aspects that you would like to talk or share about the podcast or any of the subjects that I'm covering, including the fact that I'm a noise magnet, but I can't afford a sound room. It doesn't matter where I go, I attract the noise. But anyway, if you would like to come to talk to me on the podcast, it would be lovely to meet you and have a debate or a discussion about any topic that you choose, because I'm curious about so many different things and I would love to meet some of you. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Cauldron of Curiosities. If you enjoyed this dip into folklore, don't forget to follow the podcast, share it with a friend, and keep your lantern handy for the next curious tale.